Picture this for a second. Someone walks into a room and you feel the air shift. They don't say a word. They don't raise their voice, but suddenly everyone is paying attention. You're curious, maybe even a little uncomfortable, and you can't explain why. That's power. Not the kind that comes from being loud, aggressive, or overbearing. The kind that comes from presence, from control, from knowing exactly who you are and refusing to give that power away. Now think about the toxic people you've met in your life, the manipulators, the energy drainers, the ones who push, prod, and poke just to see how much they can get away with. You know the type, they thrive on weakness, they live off of your reactions. They test you, not because they're strong, but because deep down they're terrified of being exposed. Here's the truth, you don't make toxic people afraid of you by fighting them on their level. You don't win by shouting louder, being nastier, or matching their chaos. That's exactly what they want. The secret lies in turning the game upside down by becoming someone they cannot manipulate, cannot predict, and cannot control. And once you master that, you'll notice something fascinating. Toxic people will stop challenging you. They'll avoid you. They'll talk behind your back, sure, but they won't dare come face to face with you. Because when you own yourself, you own the space around you. So tonight, I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that. Not in theory, not in vague motivational fluff, but in practical, battle-tested ways that make people who thrive on toxicity second guess whether they should even come near you. Because here's the real secret. It's not about making them afraid of you. It's about making them realize you are untouchable. When you walk into a room, before you've said a single word, people have already decided what they think about you. They've already made judgments about your confidence, your strength, and whether or not you're someone they can push around. And here's the part that most people never realize. Those judgments are almost never about what you say. They're about how you carry yourself. Your presence tells the story before your mouth ever opens. Presence is power. It's the secret weapon most people ignore because they're too focused on trying to come up with the perfect comeback, the perfect line, or the perfect argument. Toxic people don't need your word. They're reading your energy, your posture, your tone. They're looking for cracks. And if you give them even an inch, they'll take a mile. So let me ask you, how do you walk into a room? Do you shuffle in quietly, shoulders slouched, eyes darting around, hoping not to be noticed? Or do you walk in with your head high, shoulders back, eyes steady, claiming space without saying a word? Because that difference right there is what determines whether toxic people see you as prey or as someone who is untouchable. Presence is not about arrogance. It's not about being loud, aggressive, or the person who dominates every conversation. That's insecurity dressed up as confidence. Real presence is quiet, calm, and unshakable. It's walking in with such certainty in who you are that you don't need to prove anything. And that unnerves toxic people. Why? Because they can't figure you out. They can't get a read on you. They can't sense weakness to exploit. Give you an example. I once watched a negotiation between two people. One walked in, talking fast, trying to fill every moment of silence, laughing too loud, over-explaining every point. You could see the nerves spilling out of him. The other person, he walked in slowly, sat down, leaned back in his chair, and didn't speak until he was ready. He made the other man wait. And you could watch the balance of power shift in real time. The one who was desperate to be liked lost control before the conversation even began. The one who was comfortable in his silence owned the room. That's presence. Toxic people are like predators. They don't go after the strongest in the room. They go after the easiest target, the one who avoids eye contact, the one who fidgets, the one who apologizes before they've even done anything wrong. And once they sense that, it's game over. They'll test you, push you, and keep pressing until they find the limit. But if you radiate calm certainty, if you move with intention, if you make it clear with your body language and tone that you're not here to be messed with, they back off. Not because you said anything, but because your presence did the work for you. You think about lions. A lion doesn't need to roar to be feared. It simply walks slowly, deliberately, like it has all the time in the world. Other animals pick up on that and they respect it. Humans are no different. We're constantly sending signals through the way we stand, the way we move, the way we breathe, Presence is about mastering those signals. So how do you build that? It starts with your body. Straighten your spine, drop your shoulders, breathe deeply from your diaphragm instead of shallow breaths from your chest. Stand tall even if you're not the tallest person in the room. Keep your movements slow and deliberate, because fast, jittery movements scream insecurity. Slow movements communicate calm, authority. When you speak, lower your tone slightly and slow down your pace. The more rushed you sound, the weaker you appear. The calmer and more measured you are, the more people will lean in to listen. And don't underestimate eye contact. It's one of the most powerful tools you have. Toxic people watch for darting eyes, for someone who looks away quickly, for someone who can't hold their gaze. That's a green light for them. But if you meet their eyes steady and unflinching, not aggressive, not staring them down like you're picking a fight, but calm and unwavering, you send a clear message. I see you, I'm not afraid, and you won't break me. That's the kind of presence that makes toxic people hesitate. Here's the best part. Presence doesn't require words. In fact, the less you say, the more powerful it becomes. Silence is intimidating when it comes from someone who is in control. Try this sometime. When someone says something toxic, don't rush to defend yourself. Don't scramble for a comeback. Just pause. Hold their gaze. Breathe. That silence will feel like an eternity to them. They'll start to squirm, to fill the space, to expose themselves. Because toxic people hate silence. They hate not knowing what's going on in your head. And when you master silence, you master them. Now, presence is not something you fake for one interaction. It's a way of being. It's training yourself every day to walk, move, and speak with intention. Practice in the mirror. Practice when you order coffee. Practice when you're in line at the store. Every small interaction is a chance to build that muscle. And over time, it becomes who you are. You don't have to think about it. You just radiate it. And let me be very clear. Presence is not about intimidation for the sake of intimidation. It's not about scaring people into respecting you. It's about carrying yourself in such a way that toxic people realize immediately you're not the one to play with. It's about drawing a line without ever having to say there's a line. And it's about freeing yourself from being controlled by other people's chaos. The people who drain you, who manipulate, who try to pull you into their drama, they're only effective when you let them dictate the energy. But when your presence says, I control myself, I control the space, and you won't throw me off balance, suddenly the game is over for them. They don't know what to do. And that's when the tables turn. So if you want to make toxic people afraid of you, start with presence. Because power doesn't always roar. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to say much at all. They just are. Every single relationship you have, whether it's personal, professional, or casual, is built on boundaries. Most people don't realize this. They think respect comes from being nice, from going along to get along, or from keeping the peace at all costs. But here's the truth. People don't respect you because you're agreeable. They respect you because you have limits. They respect you because you make it clear where the line is and you don't allow anyone to cross it. Toxic people know this better than anyone. They're experts at testing those lines. They'll push, prod, and poke, not always in obvious ways, but in small, subtle steps. They want to see how much you'll tolerate. Will you laugh at the joke that went too far? Will you let them cut you off mid-sentence? Will you allow them to dump their problems on you again and again without ever giving anything back? And the moment you let it slide, the moment you tell yourself, it's not a big deal, you've trained them. You've taught them exactly how to treat you. And I'll tell you right now, once you give away that power, getting it back is 10 times harder. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about shutting people out or becoming cold and unreachable. Boundaries are rules of engagement. They're the invisible agreements you establish with the world about how you will and will not be treated. And the thing about toxic people is that they hate boundaries because boundaries cut off their supply. Boundaries tell them, you don't get to feed off me, and nothing makes them more uncomfortable than realizing they can't manipulate you anymore. But here's the catch. Setting boundaries is easy to say, hard to do. Why? Because we've been conditioned to avoid conflict. We've been taught that saying no is rude, We've been told that pushing back makes us difficult, uncooperative, or selfish. So what do? We soften our words. We explain. We apologize. We say things like, I'm sorry, but, or I don't mean to be difficult, but do you see what that does? It hands your power away. You've already told the other person you don't fully believe you have the right to enforce your own limits. The secret to boundaries commanding respect is clarity and calmness. No over-explaining, no nervous laughter, no long backstory, just direct, simple statements. For example, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that, or no, I won't be doing that. That's it. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. Boundaries aren't up for negotiation with people who don't respect them. And the moment you stop apologizing for having them, people start to recognize you as someone who values themselves. Now, will toxic people test you when you first start doing this? Absolutely. In fact, expect it. The first time you enforce a boundary with someone who's used to getting their way, they'll push harder, they'll guilt trip you, they'll accuse you of being selfish, cold, unkind, even cruel. They'll say things like, wow, you've changed, or you think you're better than me. That's their fear talking. They're afraid they've lost control over you. And this is where most people fail. They give in. They go back to saying yes just to make the discomfort stop. And that's when the toxic person wins. You have to hold the line. Boundaries are like muscles. You build them through repetition. The first few times you say no, your voice might shake. You might second guess yourself. You might feel guilt. That's normal. But if you stay consistent, if you show that your words actually mean something, people start to believe you. And once they believe you, they adjust their behavior or they disappear. Either way, you win. One of the most powerful boundaries you can set is with your time. Toxic people love to steal time. They'll call you at all hours, dump endless drama on you, or monopolize your attention when you have other things to do. You have to protect your time like it's money, because it is. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. Saying, I can't talk right now, I have other priorities, isn't rude. It's self-respect. And people who don't respect your time don't respect you, period. Another critical boundary is emotional. Toxic people thrive on reactions. They want you to explode, to cry, to beg, to argue. That's their fuel. You can shut it down instantly by drawing an emotional boundary. I don't engage in conversations like this. Then stop talking. Walk away if you need to. Refusing to let someone drag you into their chaos is one of the strongest boundaries you can set. It communicates that your peace is not up for sale. And let's talk about personal space, physical and psychological. Someone raises their voice, steps too close, invades your space. That's a test. You don't have to scream back. You don't have to shove them away. You hold your ground, you stay calm, and you let your silence and posture say, this is as close as you're going to get. Boundaries don't always need words. Sometimes they're in the way you refuse to move. But here's the most important thing about boundaries. They start with you. You cannot demand respect from others if you're not willing to respect yourself. That means keeping promises you make to yourself. That means not tolerating your own excuses. That means being disciplined enough to say, if I wouldn't allow someone else to treat me this way, why am I treating myself this way? Self-respect and boundaries go hand in hand. When you develop this mindset, something fascinating happens. Toxic people stop seeing you as a target. They move on because the truth is they're not looking for a fight. They're looking for easy prey. And when you show them that you're not it, they'd rather find someone else than keep wasting their energy on you. That's the power of boundaries. So the next time someone crosses the line, don't think of it as an attack. Think of it as an opportunity to teach them who you are. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to raise your voice. You simply hold the line calmly, firmly, consistently. Over time, people learn, and the ones who refuse to learn, they leave, which is the best boundary of all, removing toxic people from your life completely. Boundaries to command respect because they show the world you respect yourself. And once you truly live that, toxic people won't know what to do with you. They'll fear the one thing they can't manipulate, a person with limits. Every interaction you have is an energy exchange. Whether you realize it or not, the way you show up emotionally sets the tone for the room. Toxic people understand this better than most. They thrive on pulling you into their chaos because once they control your reaction, they control you. And that's the trap. Most people don't even see it happening. They think they're defending themselves, standing up for themselves, or proving a point, but in reality, they're being played. They've given away control of their energy. And once it's gone, the toxic person owns the interaction. Imagine a puppeteer pulling strings. Every time you raise your voice, every time you snap back, every time you let anger boil over, you're moving exactly the way they want. You've become predictable, reactive, and weak. Toxic people don't fear people who explode. They expect it. What they fear are the people who don't take the bait. The ones who stay calm, measured, and unshaken, no matter how much pressure is applied. Because calmness is power. When you control your energy, you control the room. Think about the last time someone tried to provoke you. Maybe it was a coworker with a passive-aggressive comment, a family member who knows exactly what buttons to press, or even a stranger cutting you off in traffic. Your instinct was probably to react immediately. It's that flash of irritation, that urge to snap back, to prove you won't be disrespected. That's normal. It's human. But the moment you react, you've handed over control. You're no longer operating on your terms. You're operating on theirs. Now picture a different response. Instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You don't give them what they're looking for. You don't let your voice rise, your face contort, or your body tense up. You remain composed, collected, even slightly detached. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. They wanted a battle. You gave them nothing. They wanted to feed off your energy. You left them starving. That silence, that calmness, is more intimidating than any outburst could ever be. I once watched an argument unfold between two people. One was yelling, throwing accusations, pacing back and forth, arms flailing. The other, he stood still, arms at his sides, expression neutral, voice calm. He didn't match the energy. He controlled his own. And after a while, the one who was shouting looked ridiculous. His words lost power because his energy was wild and erratic, while the calm presence of the other man filled the space. That's how you win without saying much at all. Toxic people are emotional gamblers. They bet on your reaction. If you explode, they win. If you defend yourself endlessly, they win. If you crumble or apologize for things you didn't do, they win. But when you don't give them any reaction, when you refuse to let your emotions be hijacked, the game ends. You've broken the pattern they rely on. And once they realize they can't pull you into their storm, they lose interest. So how do you master this? It starts with self-awareness. You can't control your energy if you don't even notice when it's being pulled. The next time you feel your heart race, your jaw tighten, or your voice rise, stop. Literally stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, who's controlling this moment, me or them? That one pause is often enough to shift the balance back in your favor. Breathing is another underrated weapon. Slow, deep breaths regulate your nervous system. Toxic people often try to rush you, overwhelm you, corner you into reacting before you've had time to think. When you control your breathing, you slow everything down. You buy yourself space to respond instead of react. And that makes you unpredictable, which is the last thing toxic people want. Tone is equally powerful. Most people match the energy they're given. Someone yells, they yell back. Someone gets sarcastic, they get sarcastic too. That's exactly what toxic people want. Mirroring. But if you keep your tone even, low, and steady, you short-circuit their strategy. It's like trying to start a fire without oxygen. It just doesn't catch. And the longer you hold that calm tone, the more unnerving it becomes for the other person. They can't get under your skin because you've locked the door from the inside. Another key to controlling your energy is detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't personalize the toxic behavior. When someone lashes out, manipulates, or insults, it's not really about you. It's about them, their insecurity, their pain, their fear. Once you internalize that, their words lose their sting. You stop reacting as if you've been personally attacked and start seeing their behavior for what it really is, a desperate attempt to get a rise out of you. Here's something to practice. The next time someone tries to provoke you, imagine they're testing you, not insulting you. Instead of hearing, You're not good enough. Here, let's see if I can make you lose your cool. And then decide, not today. That mental shift alone takes away their power. And let's not forget body language. Your energy is communicated in how you stand, sit, and move. If you fidget, cross your arms, tap your foot, or shrink into yourself, you're leaking nervous energy. Toxic people pick up on that instantly. But if you remain still, grounded, and open, you project control. Stillness is a signal of strength. It says, I don't need to move because I'm not threatened. And that unsettles anyone trying to dominate you. Here's the irony. Many people think that showing strength means fighting back louder, harder, and faster. But the reality is that's weakness disguised as strength. True power is restraint. It's the ability to remain calm when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. It's the discipline to hold your ground, to let your presence, not your emotions, speak for you. That's what makes people stop and think twice before crossing you again. When you master your energy, you don't just protect yourself from toxic people. You elevate yourself in every area of life. People listen more closely when you speak because your words aren't drowned in noise. People follow your lead because you bring calm where others bring chaos. And toxic people, they fade into the background because they realize you're not the easy target they hoped for. Control your energy, and you control the room. Control the room. And you don't just survive toxic people, you make them afraid to come anywhere near you. Because they know they can't win a game, you refuse to play. Most people are terrified of silence. The moment there's a pause in a conversation, they scramble to fill it with words. Any words. They over-explain, they justify, they ramble, and in doing so, they hand over power. Toxic people understand this instinct and use it to their advantage. They push you into talking more than you should because the more you say, the more information they have to use against you. But here's the secret. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a weapon. And when you master it, you make toxic people deeply uncomfortable. Think about it. Silence forces people to sit with themselves. It makes them question what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you might do next. That uncertainty eats at them. And toxic people hate uncertainty because it strips away their control. They rely on you to give them clues, to reveal your emotions, to spill details they can twist. But when you give them nothing, when your words are minimal and your silence steady, you flip the power dynamic completely. Suddenly, they're the ones scrambling to fill the void. They're the ones revealing too much. This is why silence feels so powerful in tense situations. Imagine someone tries to insult you, expecting you to snap back. Instead, you look at them calmly and say nothing. You hold their gaze, maybe tilt your head slightly. But you don't react. Do you know what happens? The weight of their own words comes crashing down on them. What they thought would land like a dagger suddenly feels awkward and hollow because you didn't give them the reaction they craved. That silence forces them to sit in their own discomfort. Minimal words are just as effective. Most people over-explain because they feel guilty about having boundaries or nervous about confrontation. So instead of saying no, they go into a long justification. I'd love to, but I'm really busy and I don't think I can fit it in. Maybe another time. That's weakness. It invites debate. A toxic person hears that and immediately thinks, if I push harder, I can get what I want. But if you say simply, no, that doesn't work for me, and stop talking, the conversation ends. You've shut the door without leaving a crack open. Toxic people thrive on your words. The more you talk, the more they manipulate. They take your explanations, twist them, and use them against you. If you say, I can't do that because I'm really stressed right now, they'll respond, you're always stressed. Why can't you just help me for once? But if you say no and nothing more, there's nothing to attack. You've given them no leverage. That's why brevity is power. The fewer words you use, the stronger each one becomes. I've seen this play out in high-stakes situations. In interrogations, the person who talks the most usually loses. The more they say, the more threads there are to pull, the more contradictions that can be found. The one who uses silence, who answers minimally, who keeps control over what they reveal, always holds the advantage. The same applies in daily life. If you want to command respect, stop giving away your power with endless chatter. Of course, silence isn't about shutting down completely or refusing to communicate. It's about using it strategically. When someone makes a demand, pause before you answer. That pause alone creates gravity. It makes people lean in, makes them wonder what's coming. Even if you eventually say yes, the pause communicates that you considered it, that you're not impulsive, that you operate on your own timing. That subtle shift builds authority. The key is comfort. Most people feel so uneasy in silence that they break it without realizing they've lost control. If you can train yourself to sit calmly in silence, you'll always have the upper hand. Toxic people will try to bait you, accuse you, pressure you, question you. But if you remain composed, if you don't rush to defend yourself, they'll eventually reveal more than they wanted to. That's the beauty of silence. It's not passive, it's active. It creates space for the other person to expose themselves. Minimal words also require discipline. We live in a world where people are rewarded for talking the loudest, posting the most, or filling every second with noise. But real authority doesn't need that. Real authority speaks less and means more. When you use fewer words, people start to pay attention. They lean in because they know you won't waste their time. Toxic people, on the other hand, hate it. They hate when you don't give them enough to twist. They hate when you won't argue endlessly. They hate when you cut off their supply of emotional fuel. Here's an exercise to try. The next time someone challenges you, instead of firing back with a long defense, answer in one sentence. Then stop, let the silence do the rest. At first it will feel uncomfortable. You'll want to explain yourself, to smooth things over, to keep talking. But if you resist that urge, you'll feel something powerful. You'll feel control because the silence belongs to you. Another tactic is responding with questions instead of explanations. If someone accuses you, rather than defending yourself, simply ask, "Why do you say that?" and then stay quiet. The pressure shifts back to them. They're forced to elaborate, to fill the silence, to reveal more than they intended. Meanwhile, you conserve your energy and keep control. Mastering silence and minimal words also extends to digital communication. Toxic people love endless text wars, long email chains, constant back and forth. Don't play that game. Be short, be clear, and don't get pulled into over-explaining. One sentence is enough. Sometimes one word is enough, and then stop responding. Your lack of engagement says more than any long reply ever could. What makes silence so intimidating is that it communicates certainty. It shows you don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need validation. You're solid in who you are, and you won't waste energy convincing anyone else. That unsettles toxic people more than anything. They rely on your need to be liked, understood, or approved of. When you strip that away, you leave them powerless. The mastery of silence and minimal words is really about self-control. It's about breaking the habit of over-explaining, overreacting, and oversharing. It's about training yourself to value your words, to use them with precision, and to let silence carry the weight when words aren't necessary. Because sometimes the loudest statement you can make is the one you don't say. When you embody this, toxic people don't know how to handle you. They can't bait you. They can't twist your words. They can't drain your energy. They walk away frustrated, confused, even a little afraid. And that's the goal, not to meet their chaos with more chaos, but to starve it with silence. To leave them wrestling with their own discomfort while you remain untouched. In a world full of noise, silence is rare. That's why it's powerful. And when you pair silence with minimal, deliberate words, you become someone toxic people can't read, can't control, and can't defeat. You become untouchable. One of the most powerful realizations you'll ever have in dealing with toxic people is this. You don't have to play. You don't have to explain yourself endlessly. You don't have to stay in the argument, prove your point, or convince them of anything. The ultimate form of power comes from detachment, the ability to walk away, to choose peace over chaos, to decide that their game isn't worth your time. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your own well-being than you do about feeding their dysfunction. And that is the kind of strength toxic people fear the most. See, toxic people operate on one assumption that you need them in some way. Maybe it's approval, maybe it's validation, maybe it's belonging, or maybe it's just habit. They believe you're too invested, too afraid, or too weak to let go. That belief is their leverage. It's what gives them confidence to keep disrespecting you, to keep draining you, to keep testing how far they can go. The moment you remove that leverage, the moment you show them that you're willing to walk away, you shatter the illusion of their control. Suddenly they have nothing to hold over you. Detachment is not cold indifference. It's not about shutting off your emotions or becoming robotic. It's about clarity. It's about recognizing that your energy, your time, and your peace are non-negotiable. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you, especially not those who consistently abuse it. When you detach, you're saying, I decide who gets to be in my life. I decide what deserves my energy, and I won't let toxicity dictate my choices. That's not weakness. That's dominance. Think about a toxic person who constantly baits you into arguments. If you stay engaged, even if you win the argument, you've still lost because you've played on their terms. But if you detach, if you refuse to engage, if you calmly walk away, if you redirect your energy elsewhere, they have nothing. They can scream, they can insult, they can try to guilt trip you, but none of it sticks. Why? Because you've already decided their chaos doesn't belong to you. That's domination through choice. One of the hardest things for people to grasp is that not every battle is worth fighting. Some of the most powerful victories come from non-engagement. Toxic people want you locked in with them, spinning in circles, drained and exhausted. When you stop showing up for that fight, you reclaim all the energy they were stealing, and you can reinvest that energy into yourself, your goals, your peace. That's where true power lives. Not in proving them wrong, but in proving to yourself that you don't need their validation. Here's an example. Imagine a friend who constantly belittles your ambitions. Every time you talk about something you want to achieve, they downplay it, mock it, or point out why it won't work. Most people respond by defending themselves, trying harder to explain why their dream matters. But what if, instead, you stop seeking that friend's approval altogether? What if you decide their opinion carries no weight in your life? Suddenly, their words have no power. You don't need to argue. You don't need to fight. You just detach. And without your energy fueling them, their influence disappears. Attachment is also about choices that align with your values. You choose where you go, who you spend time with, and what conversations you participate in. Toxic people lose their grip the moment you realize you have options. You don't have to answer that phone call. You don't have to respond to that text. You don't have to attend that event where you know they'll try to get under your skin. Each time you choose not to engage, you reinforce your dominance. You show them, and more importantly yourself, that you're not trapped. You always have a way out, and you're not afraid to take it. But make no mistake, detachment requires strength. It's easy to say, I don't care, while secretly obsessing over what someone said about you. True detachment means you stop giving mental real estate to people who haven't earned it. It means when they try to provoke you, you don't carry it with you for the rest of the day. You let it roll off because you've already decided their voice doesn't define you. That takes discipline. That takes emotional maturity. And that's exactly why toxic people can't stand it. They can't control someone who isn't hooked on their approval. Another layer of detachment is recognizing that not every relationship deserves saving. Some people cling to toxic connections out of guilt, history, or obligation. But ask yourself this: if someone consistently disrespects your boundaries, drains your energy, and poisons your peace, what exactly are you holding on to? Detachment gives you the clarity to walk away from what no longer serves you. And walking away is not losing. It's winning. It's declaring that your life is too valuable to be wasted in toxic cycles. When you pair detachment with choice, you become unstoppable. Because then every action you take is intentional. You're not reacting out of fear or guilt. You're choosing from a place of strength. You choose when to speak and when to stay silent. You choose when to engage and when to walk away. You choose who has access to your time and energy. And those choices create an aura of authority around you. Toxic people sense it, and it makes them nervous. They realize you're not someone they can easily manipulate. because you're not desperate for their approval. Here's the paradox. The less you chase respect, the more you command it. When you detach from needing to be liked, you actually become more respected because people recognize strength when they see it. They may not admit it, but they feel it. And toxic people, they may never say it out loud, but deep down, they fear the one thing they can't control, your freedom to choose. So, the next time you're faced with someone trying to pull you into their chaos, remember this, you don't have to play. You don't have to give them your words, your energy, or your time. You can detach. You can walk away. And in doing so, you win, not by overpowering them, but by proving you don't need them. That's the highest level of dominance. Not control over others, but control over yourself. Detachment is not running from the fight. It's realizing you're the one who decides whether the fight even happens. That's the secret toxic people don't want you to know. They're not afraid of your anger. They're not afraid of your arguments. They're afraid of your independence, your ability to say, you don't matter enough to shake me. And once you master that, toxic people can't touch you. They're left shouting into the void while you move forward, free and untouchable. Every toxic person you've ever dealt with, every manipulator, every bully, every energy drainer has one thing in common. They feed off the power you give them. The moment you take that power back, the game ends. And that's what we've been building toward. Presence makes them think twice before even approaching you. Boundaries train them how to treat you. Control of your energy robs them of their fuel. Silence strips away their leverage. And detachment destroys their illusion of control altogether. The truth is, you don't have to scream. You don't have to fight, and you don't have to play dirty to make toxic people afraid of you. You just have to become someone they cannot manipulate, someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't bend, and doesn't hand over their peace so easily. That's real strength. That's real power. So here's the final message I want to leave you with. You are not at the mercy of toxic people. You are not obligated to tolerate them. You are not required to carry their baggage or feed their dysfunction. You have choices. You have authority over your presence, your boundaries, your energy, your words, and your life. And when you live from that place of authority, toxic people stop being a threat. They become irrelevant. Stop giving away your power. Stop apologizing for protecting yourself. Stop explaining yourself to people who have already shown they don't deserve access to you. Instead, stand tall. Say less. Guard your energy. And when necessary, walk away without looking back. That is how you make toxic people afraid. Not by matching their chaos, but by showing them you can't be touched by it. Because the secret is this, they're not really afraid of you. They're afraid of what you represent. The person they cannot control, cannot manipulate, and cannot break. And when you become that person, you don't just survive toxic people. You rise above them. You dominate by choice. You live free.